Hello and welcome to another episode of Vintage Lunchbox Reviews, the show in which I review my vintage lunchboxes. It's right there in the name. On today's episode, we have what the kids, I believe, call a banger. This is, if you were going to elementary school in the 1980s, guaranteed you knew somebody with this lunchbox. If you yourself weren't lucky enough to own one of these lunchboxes, one of the biggest hits of 1983, and one for a long time, one of the top 10 grossing films of all time. You guessed it, it is Return of the Jedi. This is I'm a super big Star Wars fan. There's a ton of Star Wars toys, action figures, all back there on the shelves, and what kid in the 1980s did not want the Return of the Jedi lunchbox? This, of course, came out in 1983, just like the movie Return of the Jedi. This is, if you notice here, a Thermos brand lunchbox, not Aladdin. So the two biggest manufacturers of metal lunchboxes were Thermos and Aladdin, and the biggest difference, other than you'll always see the brand name. The brand name's always on there, Thermos or Aladdin. But the biggest difference is the Aladdin ones are the ones where the pictures are embossed. So if you run your hand across it, you would feel raised sections where the artwork was. And Thermos didn't do that on their lunchboxes. So all the Thermos ones I have, this is just a flat piece of metal. The Aladdin ones are the ones that feel kind of bumpy. So let's take a quick look at this lunchbox. Again, this is such a great lunchbox, although this scene right here, not so great. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. But if you had to pick iconic scenes from Return of the Jedi, is this the one you go to? I mean, you got to have the Death Star. So we've got the Death Star 2.0. Death Star 2, this is the reconstructed. They were building the Death Star to replace the one that the pesky rebels blew up at the end of Star Wars. So we've got the Death Star here. We've got a Star Destroyer flying in to go see what's going on. And then we have this image over here of Darth Vader. We've got a TIE fighter over here. So lots of iconic things from Return of the Jedi. But I don't know. It's just like there's just so many iconic things to go with for Return of the Jedi. You know, you got, where's your Jabba the Hutt? Where's that shot of Luke and Leia as they're about to swing off the skiff right before Luke blows it up? You know, I mean, a lot of cool scenes in Return of the Jedi. But this definitely. One thing I'll say about it is with this Death Star, you know that this is specific to Return of the Jedi. This isn't recycled from Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back. Like, you know, Return of the Jedi, they're rebuilding the Death Star, and then we could see it right there. On the flip side of this lunchbox, we have this very famous scene. This is Luke as he is drawing his blaster, preparing to shoot Jabba the Hutt in the face. So this is after Luke goes in and thinks that he's a Jedi. Not so much, Luke. You weren't quite there yet. But thinks that he's going to just waltz in to Jabba's palace, go past all the, Boba Fett's in there, all the denizens of Jabba's lair there. And Luke thinks he's just going to walk in and just use his Jedi powers and say, "You will release Captain Solo to me," but it doesn't quite work out that way. But fortunately, he's got all his plants in there. We've got Lando, we've got as hiding as a skiff guard, Princess Leia, who is a slave, R2-D2 and C-3PO are now working for Jabba the Hutt, and then we have Chewbacca as a planted prisoner who's in there with Han Solo, who's in carbonite. So the whole gang's there. Luke goes in and he's like, "Hey buddy, you better let my friend go," and then Jabba's like, "Oh," and then he goes right into the pit there. So we could see that moment in the movie. In the back, we've got a Gamorrean guard. We also have some of the skiff guys that were named Klaatu, Barada, and Nikto as a little reference to classic science fiction. So if you watched The Day the Earth Stood Still, or if you watched Evil Dead, either one of those, you may be familiar with Klaatu, Barada, Nikto, which was the code word in The Day the Earth Stood Still, and the three skiff guards were named Klaatu, Barada and Nikto. So that was a little reference. So what do we have going on around here? Well, first of all, it's unfortunate this is hidden under the handle because this is great artwork. This is a great picture. We've got Droopy McCool, who is the lead keyboard player of the Sny Snoodles band, or we've got Droopy McCool over there. We've got no, that's Droopy McCool there in the middle, but yeah, all the members of the band. We also have Salacious Crumb, the little rat-looking thing that used to sit on Jabba's pedestal there, and we've got, looks like a Jawa in the back. So there, I mean, there's cool stuff on this. No complaints there. Only complaint, wish it weren't hidden under the handle, because that is a great piece of artwork. I'm going to flip it around to the back just because this is the other horizontal artwork. And here we've got old Jabba the Hutt sitting there with, what's his name, Bib Fortuna. There's another Jawa hiding there in the background. And, of course, they are, ready to address anyone who might show up into Jabba's court there. We've got some copyright information down there, Lucasfilms. Any of these lunchboxes that use licensed material, licensed pictures and stuff, they're always going to have copyright information about, the movie and the artwork. This side is some pretty great artwork. This is Lando as he is wrestling with one of the skiff guards there. This is, of course, the battle in Tatooine. Didn't have to look any of this up. Turns out I've seen Return of the Jedi once or twice or 100,000 times. So there's Lando fighting there. And then, I mean, what's the number one thing? When people talk about Return of the Jedi, what's the one thing they think about? There we got it. Old Wicket the Ewok there. In all his Ewok glory. We got to have a little bit, little reference to the Ewoks there when you're having your lunch. So, all in all, I mean, it's pretty good. It's a very blue themed lunchbox. And then what has happened over time, I mean, the pictures were kind of blue anyway, and as it's faded, the reds tend to fade, so it's even more blue. So this is a very blue themed lunchbox that originally did have blue trim around the edge. So don't have the thermos for this one, but I have several Star Wars generic thermoses. Not much to see going on here. The Thermos brand ones don't have the instruction to tell you where to put your thermos. They just figure if you're buying a Thermos brand one, lid snaps back on. And, I mean, that's it. That's the Return of the Jedi lunchbox. Now, here is a secret spoiler for you. I have a lot of Star Wars lunchboxes, and we're going to be looking at all those lunchboxes. Definitely for the next 3 days, for the rest of this week, are all Star Wars-themed lunchboxes. So this is a good one. Like I said, if you were a kid in the 80s, you definitely knew somebody that had this one. Whether you like the spaceship side, whether you like the Jabba Palace side, doesn't matter. I mean, what lunch is not better when served from Return of the Jedi lunchbox? Every lunch is made better by that. So, hey, thanks for tuning in to this vintage lunchbox review. Tune in tomorrow around lunchtime to find out what's on the lunch menu.